Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack 4 Business Podcast. Over 300 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack 4 business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Fransgrote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc.
Today's topic is the secret to finding and keeping dream clients. So a question for our audience: why are you constantly chasing new leads when you could be making more money from the clients you already have? And you know what? That's what our guest is about today. We're going to welcome Catharine O'Leary and she's also known as the Quiz Queen from Smart Quiz Solutions. Catharine is the founder of the Client Intelligence Agency, acronym CIA, except she's not out of Langley. She's out of Orangeville, where she helps service-based businesses attract, engage, and retain high-value clients using AI-driven client insights. With over 30 years of experience working with Fortune 100 companies like Apple, Pepsi, and HP, Catharine has mastered the art of customer engagement and retention. She's on a mission to help entrepreneurs turn client conversations into revenue-generating relationships without relying on outdated lead gen strategies. Catharine, welcome. Do you have a favorite quote or saying, man?
I had the privilege of working with Apple when Steve Jobs was there. So one of my favorite quotes is from him. You've got to start with the customer experience and work backward toward the technology, not the other way around. And I think that this is really important now with AI and the tools and techniques that are coming out right now. So I usually try to refer back to Steve Jobs when I can.
And what's your business tagline?
Know your clients, grow your business.
That is really important. The ideal client and understanding them. Why is that a problem for people? Why don't they know who their client is? If they're looking for a date, they know what they want. If they're looking for a restaurant, they know what they want. Why aren't they focused in on who their ideal client is?
Well, similar to what you were saying, if they know the restaurant, like they know what they want to provide in a business. They know what they think that they can sell. They haven't asked any questions a lot of the times. So one of the things that entrepreneurs do that corporate has solved for is creating something based on the fact that you've already gone through a trial or a tribulation. You've solved it, and now you want to help others get through that same problem to the solution that you've found. The issue is, though, that once we've already traversed the problem and climbed to the mountaintop, that, yeah, we solved it and we've got it, we talk about it differently, right? We're not in the weeds of it anymore. So it's hard for us to kind of look back and remember what it was like 3 years ago or 5 years ago or more when we were in the depths of that problem and trying to find our way out of it. How do we talk to and how do we connect with our ideal clients that are still in the weeds in this particular area? So just because we've gone through and we've solved for the problem and we've created a business around the problem, we then go out and say, see, I solved it. Like, it's really great on the other side here. And then we forget to put ourselves in their shoes, and we forget how to actually talk to them when they're in the depths of the problem. So our messaging is off, our offers are off. We don't quite hit the mark with exactly what people are struggling with, or their language has changed. And we've been through a pandemic, we've been through a few elections, we've been through a few natural disasters, like stuff has happened that causes our priorities to shift and our conversations to take on a different tone. Are we keeping in touch with our ideal clients enough to know when they're starting to worry about different things or starting to articulate what they're struggling with differently? And I would say corporate does this really well. Small businesses and medium-sized businesses miss the mark on this.
It almost sounds like the effort of raising a kid, the need for a 5-year-old, a teenager, and a 20-something are vastly different. Keep in touch.
And the way that you talk to your 20-year-old when they were 5 is different than the way you talk to your current 5-year-old, right? The world that they're growing up with and around and in is completely different with smartphones and technology and the way the schools are and everything. It's different for a 5-year-old now than it was for the 20-year-old that was 5 years old 15 years ago. The conversations are different.
Catharine, you talk about clients and keeping them.
in growing them? What are small business doing to screw it up?
I think that there's a bit of a hamster wheel of new clients coming in. So you're always in lead generation mode. You're always trying to get new clients. You're always trying to keep that flow of new people in. And what people don't realize or they forget is that it's 5 times more costly to bring on a new client than it is to keep your existing one. So we spend, a lot of the businesses I talk to spend like 80% of their marketing efforts and their time on getting new clients and only 20% on actually serving the clients that they have in the doors. It should be flipped, right? You should just be topping up your client list as opposed to trying to reinvent it every quarter. And if you can do that, if you can flip it and keep the clients longer, you end up with raving fans, you end up with people that are going to refer you, you end up with people that are going to stay and buy from you more because they trust you now. They love you. So how do you do that? You have to make the experience of being with you worth continuing on with. And sometimes we stop at the sale, right? A lot of small businesses, yeah, I got that course bought or sold, or I got the person into the doors. And then we forget all about onboarding and all about actual client retention. And it's not sustainable.
So from the major brands, if I were to sell you ice cream, I think you're happy, you eat it, you carry on, you don't get sick. The palate was good and you don't get sick. The likelihood of coming back is there. It's not the same thing, let's say, if you're buying an iPhone or a Mac or a printer from HP. How do they handle that relationship differently than someone who's, hi, I'm selling you a service. I'm a plumber. I'm going to plumb your house so things flush away from you, etc. Or I'm a realtor. Any of those particular ones, because they're not going to be, they're of import, but they're not of the same size as like an Apple or an HP.
Yes, and I think it comes down to storytelling and connecting with your clients, right? So Apple is very good at storytelling. Most Mac users don't have a clue what's in the Mac. Like, they don't know what the Intel processor is. They don't know what the gigabytes are. They don't care, right? What they cared about was that it's not a PC. It's not going to get hacked every 4 seconds because that's what Apple told them. This is what you should care about. But it was a story. It was the story of have HP with its photo printers, the story of capturing your grandchild's first step. Pepsi is the story with Gatorade, for example, the story of championships and of the bucket being tipped over onto the coach's head. Those are all stories. They're stories that connect to your ideal clients. Because if you start talking about features or about, like, we have, this megapixel camera, this is what BlackBerry used to do, right? We have this megapixel camera. It's all about the megapixel camera. Nobody gives a crap about the megapixel camera. Does it take good pictures and is it easy? That's all they cared about. Apple talked about how easy it was. BlackBerry talked about the function. BlackBerry is no longer around. Apple still sells more iPhones and Android sells the most phones, but Apple's, a $2 trillion market cap is ridiculous. Apple sells on stories. So if you're the plumber, then what's the story? What's the emotional need? The emotional need is my pipes don't freeze when it's minus 1,000 outside, and I don't have to replace all the drywall. Okay, this is how we make sure that happens. Or there's a story, like my roof is leaking. Oh, what's the story? Now the hardwoods are ruined. Now I have to do the insurance. Now it's a pain in the butt. Now it's a huge kerfuffle. You know how you avoid that? You get a new roof before that happens. We can solve the stress before you have it. So I don't think we tell enough stories. And if we tell stories, then it's easier for us to put ourselves back into when we were in the problem. Like, I remember when I first started my business and I had no leads and I didn't know how to do it. And I paid gobs of money to Facebook and it didn't work. Right? So what did I do? If you tell the story, people can say, oh, that's me. Right? If you say the 12 megapixel is better than the 10 megapixel, it doesn't give a frame of reference and people don't care. It's not a consumer benefit and nobody cares about it. Right? BlackBerry is still the most secure system out there. Nobody cared. So if it doesn't matter to the consumer, it's not a benefit. So make sure that you're telling stories, connecting with your clients' stress points or their problems or their dream states. And how are you going to help them get that? Don't worry about the features and that kind of thing. Worry about the consumer benefits.
And you've added AI into the soup. Tell us how.
So AI is a tool like any other tool, just like the internet is a tool and searching is a tool. AI is able to help you sort through a lot of research very quickly. So, one of the problems that I see with small and medium businesses is they don't have an ideal client profile. They don't know what their ideal client looks like. They say, it looks like me 5 years ago. That's not helpful to a JV partner or even you're trying to buy ads or something like that. Go find me 5 years ago doesn't work as a filter. AI is able to, you can actually ask it, I'm dealing with people that are struggling with this, wanting this, dreaming of this. This is what my business does. This is the 3 problems that I solve. Who is looking for this information? And AI can actually go through the entire internet and tell you, you know what, it's women in urban centers that are 35 to 55 that are feeling overwhelmed and they are looking for a solution so they can spend more time with their families. Like, it can give you some starting points. It's not the end all to be all. And I'm not saying that AI actually replaces any kind of actual human to human contact and conversations, because you still need that. AI will never replace that. But how can you get 80% of the way there when you're 0% of the way there now? Right? So AI can at least help you get 80% of the way there. And I'd rather the companies be at least 80% of the way there and stop guessing 100% of the time. So let's get you to 80%, and then we can worry about the other 20%.
And you have 5 conversation suggestions that we should have with our clients.
And think of it like a dinner party, right? So when you go to a dinner party, you typically walk in and it might be a cocktail hour, right? And this is when you're walking around and you're introducing yourself and you're just getting a feel and a vibe. And like, how do you do that with your ideal clients? Like, how do you do that with, you go to a networking group? What's that conversation starter? It's usually, and it should usually be, I'm Catherine. What is it that you do? It's a question to them so that you can learn more about them. And everyone's favorite topic to talk about is themselves. Get them talking about themselves. The next is appetizers. So you found a couple of people that you connect with, and this is great. How can we go deeper into the conversation? What you're looking for here is, who do you want to sit next to at dinner, which is like a 3-hour, 3-course kind of thing, right? You want to sit next to somebody that you're going to have a good conversation with. So you use the appetizer the appetizer round to get a little deeper, understand a little bit better. Are you aligned? Or can you help each other? Can you collaborate? That's your lead magnet conversation or that discovery call conversation. When you start getting into dinner, quote unquote dinner, it's your sales conversation. It's the conversation that actually gets you working together. Make sure that you're the right fit. Make sure that, what I have is something that you need. How can we work together? How is this going to all work out? Great. We're aligned. We're going to continue forward. Then you have the little wine and cheese where you get to celebrate as people are getting their transformations, as people are going through their experiences with you. You're getting feedback on your services. You're getting feedback on how well they're doing. You're getting feedback on if they're getting stuck, so that you are actually able to help them complete all the way to dessert where they finished. And now you can have a celebration that you finished and discuss what next steps might be. And maybe it's not with you. Maybe you have a partner that can help them with their next steps, and you can hand them off to, hey, here's Joe can help you with the next steps. Amazing. Or yes, we have a program or we have a service that can help you next. And then the bonus, so that's your 5 conversations that everyone should be having all the way through the client journey. And then the bonus is, don't let them just leave. Make sure that you're scheduling the next dinner party, of course, right? Like, when are we going to see each other again? Like, what's the next thing that we can play with or work with? Or, hey, do you want to connect further in 6 months or something? Make sure that everything's still going well. What is that? So 5 conversations are your cocktail hour, getting to know people at the very surface level, name, what do you do, that kind of thing. Your appetizer level, where you're sharing some information about yourself. You're trying to figure out who you're aligning with. your main course, which is sitting down and actually figuring out who you want to work with. They want to work with you and creating that sales conversation. Your wine and cheese, which is a customer feedback loop, like how are we doing? How are you doing? Are you stuck? How can we help? And then dessert, like a celebration, like we made it through dinner, right? Yay! Everyone gets chocolate cake. This is awesome. And then, of course, don't forget to invite them to the next dinner party.
Do you have an example of where a company that you've worked with has gone, hey, I know I really got what they want, their needs. I've told them a story, the story resonated with them, and they've had an absolute transformation. Do you have an example of that?
Yeah, one of my clients, he's been speaking from stage and keynoting and mostly keynoting, and he's one of the best in his industry. He gets quite a few speaking gigs. He didn't have, though, a lead magnet or any kind of conversation around how do we capture going forward? How do you connect with me and how can we keep this conversation going? So we created a lead magnet for him called The Power of Get. So he talks about changing your have to list, like your I have to do this, to a get to list. And he talks about gratitude, energy, and treasure. And that's something that he talks about in his talks and his keynotes now. But now at the end of it, if you want to discover how to get more, go to this site. And he's actually started a membership as well called it's a Leadership Academy. And he's turned, I think we turned this on 2.5 months ago. He's got over 800 people through the tool and they love it. And it allowed him to have a community of people that he could talk to about a paid membership. And he's launched that. And he's got plans to launch a certification program. So he turned what he was doing anyways, which was speaking at keynotes, into a way to actually continue conversations further in an easy way for both himself and for his clients. And they ate it up. They love it. And they interact with him all the time. He's got a very high engagement rate. He's a really good speaker.
I have a short attention span. How do I gamify this?
With AI is the short answer. You can create a quiz that is able to ask questions about the client, but then give them a personalized report. So depending on how they answer, almost like a choose your own adventure, they get something that's just for them and it's all personalized to them. You can give them points for doing the quiz if you want. You can give them points for interacting with your community. You can gamify it up one side. It almost depends on how much gamification you really want and how much your ideal client really wants to engage in that. Because there's some audience that are just like, ugh, like I don't do that. Like I don't want. But a lot of communities have a lot of fun with it.
Gamification, that's interesting. Is that much like when you're on different social media going, what type of potato are you? For lack of better words, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm curious to be, am I white or gold or russet or whatever it is? Is that the type of gamification you're talking about? Or is it something that leads them on an adventure? I get the story part. I get it's got to have a call to action, make a curiosity piece. But when you say gamification, what does that look? How does that typically unfold? Or are there different types?
There are different levels to gamification. It really depends. And again, everything comes back to what are you trying to accomplish? Because bells and whistles for the sake of bells and whistles are just going to drive people bonkers. What is the strategy behind it? What is the intention behind it? If it's points because you've gone through different modules of a course, then what you're trying to do is make sure that people are incentivized to finish the course. Great. If that's going to work and you have the right prizes and the right incentives, then that can help people get through the course or get through to the end of what you want them to accomplish. With the quiz that you're talking about, like what Disney princess are you or what Star Wars person are you? So you can switch that.
I try to picture us being Disney princesses all the way around.
Maybe you can be one of the 7 dwarfs then. There you go.
A real tiny knot.
What you're talking about there is more of a quiz, and that's gamified in the sense of they get to play along and learn something about themselves. You can turn a quiz into more of a lead magnet for your business by saying, what type of CEO are you? Or are you a Steve Jobs? Are you a Warren Buffett? Are you a Elon Musk? Whatever. Are you an Oprah Winfrey? And again, what's the strategy behind it? What are you trying to teach them about themselves? Or what are you trying to give them to overcome a small problem that they have right now? discover how to get more is just a quiz, but it's fun because it's, oh, I don't know. Which one should I use? Should it be more in gratitude or more in treasuring those moments, or exactly how can I do it? It flows from the speaker or from the speech that he just gave. So they're jazzed about learning this new tool and technique. And then they're jazzed even more to say, oh, you're going to give me my like individual report and what I can do tomorrow or today to have a better day. This is awesome. That is a form of gamification. It's anything from leaderboards to confetti going off because you finished a task. Like you could do lots of different ways to make it's just really making it more fun and interactive.
How can you tell when the customer's getting bored?
They stop engaging, right? So it just is not flying with them. They're not participating anymore. So there's some re-engagement techniques that you can use to anything from encouraging them with, hey, like for an extra couple of points, if you just do this, you're going to get to the next level, all the way to an email, like something like, did we break up? Or like, because you're not opening my emails anymore. Are we having a fight? And I didn't know. I'm sorry. I obviously did something. You can do things like that to re-engage your list.
That's funny. You don't call me anymore.
Did we break up?
Or
Did I miss them?
some would better. So the whole premise is that you have a client base. And so how do you mix it? Because at a certain point in time, let's say you're selling baby carriages to new moms. That person or that family isn't continuously, knock on wood, they're not continuously having babies into the infinity and beyond. At a certain point in time, it reaches a maximum. And so do you, for that type of client where there's a certain life cycle that they're going to be, no, I should say viable, but it's ideal. And then it eases off. And then maybe they become grandparents and then you pick the cycle up again. How do you find the new clients and at the same time maintain the old clients? Is there a balance? Should you like 20% of the time hunt for the new client, 80% keep the ones you got? Is there a perfect mix of that?
I don't know if there's a perfect mix. I think that we are out of balance right now by trying to get new leads and only focusing on that and then not focusing on client retention. So there's a couple of questions in there in what you asked for. I'm going to go back to the first one, which is there's usually a natural cycle when a client will finish with you, right? You're not the jack of all trades. You're not going to have every single answer for them. You shouldn't, right? If you're everything to everyone, then you're nothing to everyone. It's not helpful. At that point in time, what I would suggest to a business is, do you have a referral structure or a JV partnership with the next, like the toddler, the clothing person, or the car seat manufacturer for toddlers, or whatever that is? Is there some sort of a referral program that you can get involved in? And so that you can say, hey, you know what? You don't need a baby carriage. Now you need a car seat. Here's the person that I suggest. Or is that something that you want to take on as a business and start offering car seats? So there's two ways to do that. And then the perfect mix, I would say, is watching, like it depends on the business and how much churn you have. Like when are people like leaving the business? How often, if you're monitoring that, you know your churn rate, you know that at 6 months or something, they're getting ready to go somewhere else. What engagement protocol do you need to put in place to make them or to get them to stay or to refer them to somebody else? That would be the time that, okay, you know what, in 6 months, I'm going to need to replace this person. So now I need a lead generation. So you can time it so that, yeah, I know this person is coming out, but I'm bringing this person on. And you may, depending on how much churn you have, you may not need to do a 1-for-1. If you're keeping your clients longer, your lead generation doesn't have to be quite as aggressive.
If you don't view yourself, whether you were scolded as a child, if you don't view yourself as a natural storyteller, it's important. How do you start?
Oh, that's a great question. I would start with AI. A great place to start brainstorming things where you can, now there's a voice feature, you can just talk to it. Like, this is what I'm trying to do. And this is the story that got me started. How can I turn that into something that I can use in a 3-minute introduction or in a 60-second introduction? You can have an AI actually help you with that as a brainstorming thing. I'm just going to talk, and I do this all the time. I just talk to it, right? Like, just turn the speaker on and talk to it. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm trying to do. Here's all the details. I can do that faster than I can speaking, than I can typing. And then is, okay, so this is what I want you to do with this information. Can you help me out? And depending on what I'm trying to do, if it's write an email, if it's write some sort of like a blog, or if it just brainstorming the next way to set up a quiz or set up some questions. So that's one way you can start. The other way is just to not overthink it. The way that you show up and the way that you are, like, you shouldn't change that. You shouldn't try to like teach yourself out of that, because it's never going to work, and you don't want to be a bait and switch. Oh my God, this is great. Like this fancy gleaming person over here, and then they get into your community or they get into your program and you're not. Like there's a bait and switch. It's, whoa, that's not what I thought. You don't have to be anything different than what you are. There are techniques and there are skills that you can learn, but you don't have to be everywhere and you don't have to be for everyone. That's another reason to really get to know your ideal client, because then you can just talk to your ideal client, because they're the favorite people that you want to be working with anyways. So then you're talking to Bernie or you're talking to Wayne. Every time you're telling a story, you actually have the person in mind that you're talking to. So you're not trying to talk to everyone, or you're not trying to talk to this great big huge audience. I'm just talking to Wayne right now. This is what I want Wayne to know from this experience that I had. That's a lot easier.
Catherine, if you only had 1 cent, you only had 1 minute left in your podcast, what's one thing a customer and business owner can do to cut back churn?
Ask more questions. How are you doing? Are you stuck? Can I help? What's next for you? Not everyone's going to answer, and that's okay. The people that need your help are going to answer, and you can help them more. And that's going to allow them to stay longer.
We touched on automation and storytelling. And I know AI can help you aid in the bet. There's everything, like even the CRM can help drive connectivity as nudge reminders. I've got people that I book an appointment with them, and oh my gosh, I get an email reminder 2 days before, the day of, the hour before, and then my text messages follow up. And at a certain point in time, I'm looking at that going, they didn't tell me how to unplug the continuous flow of knocking on the door. And to me, that's automation. And if you're doing storytelling, there's a personalization piece to it that kind of fits. Now, if I'm an absent-minded soul, that knock on the door might be handy. But obviously, they don't know me well enough to not overhammer that knock. How do you find that kind of that mix? That I got to tell you a story. I want it to be charming, graceful, but I don't want to be, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Moment. How do you balance that out?
With automation, or
with automation, or even when you're strategizing an approach. Let's say someone buys a product, how do you determine the touch points that you should have? When is it? Because typically you'll know your client, right? If your client is an absent-minded soul, then you have to kind of nudge and remind them every once in a while. It's almost like knowing that if a person is a detail-oriented, you give them the detail. If they're a large picture person, details will kill it. And if you're for the detailed person, telling them there's kind of a quick overview kills it for them, because they feel there's something missing. How do you strike that balance? How do you determine that's a good fit?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it's the balancing act of talking to everyone and talking one-on-one. And with some of the tools that we have now with AI, you can get closer to one-on-one on scale. Some of those automations, there might be a question that you have in the CRM, like how often do you want to be contacted? Daily, weekly, month, whatever. You can set your CRM so that weekly people only get the weekly email. Where people fall a little bit into trouble with that is they try to get to the one-to-one conversations, and they lose the plot a little bit because they've tried to automate it so much that the message just ends up being really weird, right? Because you're like, insert this and then insert that and then that, and then it doesn't even make a sentence anymore. So there are things like bots or AI chatbots that can help with this a little bit. There are technology solves for it, but there's also nothing beats knowing your client. And if most of them are detail oriented, then talk to most of them. And the people that are not detail oriented, they'll pick and choose what they need to out of your messaging. I think that people overthink this a lot, and they get to the point where they don't even communicate at all because they're worried about making somebody mad. If somebody's going to get mad because you're over communicating and you're a communicator, then they're probably not your ideal person. So that's okay. Like that you're not their person. Attract the best and release the rest because they're somebody else's best.
I like that quote. That's a Catharine quote right there. I love it.
So if a person is trapped in a lead generation mindset because it hits them that dopamine or whatever, how do you break them of that habit?
I think you show them the numbers. I think at the end of the day, like back it up and do you have your metrics? Do you know your numbers of your business? Because if you do, there's no way that client retention is going to outcost lead generation. The only time that lead generation should be like a really big hit on your P&L is if you are attracting millions to you got Facebook ads, like you're the ClickFunnels of the world or the Apples of the world. Like you've got ads out there like crazy. Outside of that, like unless you're really global and trying to attract the billions, your metrics should tell you how much a client is worth. What's the lifetime value of a client? And if that lifetime value of the client is not as high as you'd like it to be, then your client retention isn't as good as you need it to be.
That again.
If the lifetime value of your client is not as high as you want it to be, then your client retention is not as good as it needs to be.
Second quote.
If a person wants to eat the pet food, how do we get a quiz from you to learn about you?
If the person wants to eat it, that threw me for a minute. I thought you wanted me to do a quiz on people that want to eat pet food. What? Again, I have not been asked that one before in 30 years, but I can.
We're good not getting that type of a quiz, but
You never know. Like it takes all kinds. I get it. So people can connect with me on joincianow.com. So joincianow.com. That will lead you into my community where everyone becomes an agent because it is the CIA. And it will also give you access to the ideal client profile with just 4 questions about your business. It will give you a 9-page report on who your ideal client is based on what how you're describing your business. So it gives you a little bit of a, if you describe your business and you like the ideal client that comes or is attracted, great. If you don't like the profile that it gives you, the chances are good your messaging is off and you need to go back and check how you're actually describing your business to make sure that you're attracting the people that you want to be attracting.
so the psychology behind the quizzes, how is that structured?
There's several points. So there's always everyone's favorite radio station is WIIFM, right? What's in it for me? A quiz is more of a two-way conversation. So what corporate does surveys, right? They send out questions, they get the answers go into a black box. They may or may not be used for product development or sales conversations or marketing, but the consumer never knows. They give them the answers and it goes into black box. A quiz is more of a what's in it for you as a respondent or as a lead. Answer these questions. What Disney princess are you? What CEO are you? Discover how to get more. Answer a few questions and we will give you like your specific answer, right? So they get something and the business gets something in the sense of you're collecting data and you're able to utilize that to understand your ideal client a little better. And so there's what's in for you, what's in for me as a respondent. There's also micro commitments, right? So every time you answer a question, you hit next, it's a micro commitment, right? So it's, stacking micro commitments on top of each other. And by the time that they get to the end of the quiz, of course they want to read the PDF or of course they want to read the results. They've just spent, in their minds, probably 5 minutes, in reality, maybe 60 seconds answering these questions. They want to know what is it for me? What is my aura color or whatever it is? What pet food should I be eating? I don't know. Don't eat the pet food, people.
No, don't eat the pet food. Not meant for humans.
Don't eat pet food. This is not a Lysol moment. There's micro commitments and quizzes, and once you get to the end, the know and trust factor is hopefully a little stronger than it is with just this random PDF that you might download that you probably will never read because it goes into that folder of I'll read this later, and 2 years later you dump that folder because you have no idea what was in it.
So we're all on Zoom. In this case, we're all in Ontario. How big is your footprint? How many languages is it in? And tell us again how the best way to get a hold of you again.
Yeah. So my footprint is English speaking and globally. Most of my clients right now are in the US and in Canada. And languages, I know how to test surveys in several different languages because that's what I used to do. 3 in the morning Japanese surveys. I know what check all that apply looks like in Japanese. I can't speak it though. So I would say English. And again, you can find me at joincianow.com.
I want to say thank you to Catharine O'Leary, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. Now, although we touched on pet food jokingly, don't eat the pet food, please. That's just a side note, a disclaimer. This is not promoting that. However, that said, if you want to find out who your ideal client is, you want to find out if you can intrigue them and maintain them, Catherine's lady to reach out to.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motivate.uca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website motivate.uca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Jelvin Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space; then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer: please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.